Welcome to the Global Tech Leaders Podcast, where we help business leaders and individual contributors with actionable insights to hit their number and figure out the nuances of truly operating a business globally today, squeezing the essence of the lessons learned from the planet's top tech leaders. This is your guide to joining the fast track to global market scaling.
So today we are joined by Raghu Ravinutala, who is the CEO and co-founder at Yellow.ai, the world's leading CX automation conversational AI AR-powered chatbot. Yellow.ai combines the best of AI and human intelligence to automate customer experience and even internal employee support with over 700 big brands and enterprise like Sephora, Domino, and Siemens. Raghu brings over 20 years of experience working in leadership across companies such as Texas Instruments and Broadcom. He's an expert in AI automation, improving customer experience, using digital assistants for internal business support and productivity. India-based Yellow.ai most recently announced its expansion into the US and a new voice-over AI capabilities that augment the company's existing strengths of powering chatbot automations in new channels that we're all familiar with for websites, though, be it in WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and more. And they're looking to democratize AI through no-code, low-code bot builders, omnichannel virtual assistants, and ticketing automation. And now supports not only that, but 100 languages. So that took quite some saying, and I don't know how you have time to do all of that, but welcome to the show, Raghu. It's our pleasure to have you.
Hey, pleasure to be here, Ross. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, we've a lot to talk about today, and I'm very excited because this is a topic that's fascinating to me personally. I'm a computer scientist by training, as some of you will know from prior shows. But I suppose before we get there, talk about you for a moment. What is it that brought you to where you are? Like, you know, your early days in your career. You've obviously been in some very big household names in technology, but you know, talk to us about your direction in your career. What were some of the turning points, the inflection points, decisions you took that brought you to where you are today, if you could share?
Yeah, thanks, Ross. Super excited to be here. My career started with Texas Instruments, and that has been quite instrumental in how my career and shaped up, and also been instrumental towards the entrepreneurial journey. One of the key things that struck right out of college coming into Texas Instruments and straight away working towards designing semiconductor chips that are absolutely the #1 world class. At that point of time, Texas Instruments was the sole provider of semiconductor chips for Nokia, the wireless company, and we were in an environment that was technically supercharged and very high rewards for technology related excellence. So those were the learnings in that company, and while that was going on, during the third year, we evaluated a startup called Magma Design Automation for building our chips, and I was part of the evaluation team. And I firsthand saw a startup company win one of its first large enterprise customer, which is Texas Instruments, and I could immediately see their stock price start going up, and that kind of gave me an overview of how startup companies work. I loved how they used to come in super aggressive in winning the account, and I kind of fell for the thrill of it. And I joined Magma as one of their very first employees in India. And over the next 5 years, kind of really experienced the thrill of being one of the early members, fighting for customers, being aggressive in the market, the kind of things that you experience when you're beating competition, and all that stuff. And also that gave me a different perspective where the CEO and founder of the company was an Indian, and he grew up in India, went to the Silicon Valley, built this company, which is like absolute best in class in that domain. Just said, wow, this looks an amazing experience. Middle class Indian guy, kind of studying here, going out there, building a large company. And I was just fascinated then of experiencing that journey myself, than being an employee, but actually being a founder. And been on lookout for opportunities for like several years, and been thinking about ideas, and then the domain that I have been in, it's a domain which requires large amounts of capital to even start. A chip design takes about $300 million to design and productize. So I was kind of looking at internet in general, and one of the ideas was around WhatsApp, because that was a single most used application across the market that I've seen. So no other product has been as much used in India as in the time that I've seen as WhatsApp.
Sure.
And it did strike that a lot of future of how consumers interact with businesses also will extend the way that they are interacting with their friends and family, which is on WhatsApp. And at that time, there was no company that was enabling consumers to message businesses and interact in a way that they were doing with their friends, and started building out an app that helps users to exactly do that. And the story started, and that's been the genesis. The key turning points have been the experience at Texas Instruments, technology being best in class kind of focus towards the aggressiveness, and the inspiration that I saw from a founder and CEO firsthand at Magna.
Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. And I suppose my next question is really kind of twofold. How do you find an opportunity? And I think for me, it's a build up of all of the things I've been exposed to thus far that shape my view in the world. But maybe if you could share with us, what do you look for that are a go, no go for you as a proper opportunity that you can run with? I know you touched on a few things there, like WhatsApp, the spread of it, it's pretty much gone viral. I mean, no revenue company acquired for 18 billion. We all know that story. And then also, like, what makes Bangalore such a hotbed of technological activity? Because I've worked with a number of companies from Bangalore in particular, Hyderabad to a lesser extent, but Bangalore for sure. It seems to just churn out more engineers and more computer scientists than anywhere else. And I'm kind of keen to know how those two things came together, if you would, to bring you to Yellow.ai, if you could share.
Yeah. First, on the filter for me to evaluate businesses or decision, at least the business, when we started Yellow.ai was, is there a product that I could kind of sell to every single business out there, and every single person out there can be a potential customer? And all of these of the ideas that I had, the concept of Yellow.ai was something where every single user or consumer can be a potential user of our product, and every single business can be a potential customer, because there is this consumer to business engagement across the world, across businesses and across consumers. And that was a filter that I applied. But in general decision making, typically I look at upside, where the upside is as large as possible. And when I look at downsides, I kind of look at it from, is this a downside where I can track back the decision? Is it irreversible or reversible? In the sense that if I'm making a decision and if it's irreversible, I got to be absolutely more careful about making that decision than something that is reversible but has a huge upside if it works. So just some of the frameworks around decision making. And the second question around Bangalore being a Silicon Valley, why is it so? And what's, again, how does that story relate to Yellow.ai? In fact, I think it has to do with one of the first companies that I started working with, Texas Instruments. Texas Instruments is the first technology multinational that started operations in India. It's in 1985. And they happened to choose Bangalore because the climate was so much more conducive than a lot of places that they have been around. And that really started the epicenter of product-focused technology companies in India being originating from Bangalore. And then Infosys, Wipro, a lot of companies kind of started building out their operations. And this kind of became an epicenter. It's not really like this local talent that is coming into these companies, but it's been the migration ground for pretty much all the techies in India actually to migrate to Bangalore to come and work on cutting edge technology. And that kind of made an ecosystem around this. And that also developed the culture, which is quite different from traditional companies, which is hierarchical, because the companies that started here, like Texas Instruments, were fairly flat, progressive. Just the culture that got built around the tech community was like of open thinking, innovation, really rewarding talent irrespective of the age. So all those cultural aspects kind of trickle down into the new age companies that have come in around. And in a sense, I got my co-founders here who had a similar value set of building companies. They have worked at startups. They have seen how these tech startups grow, and kind of became a point where I think Bangalore was a great place for us to build a company.
Yeah, I hear you for sure. So let's dive into Yellow.ai as a technology. So you're clearly very passionate about CX, and for those of our listeners who are not familiar, it's centered around customer experience. And customer experience has dramatically changed in the way not only that we interact with organizations, and that's the key bit I'm keen to talk about today, rather. But also the expectation level of people has jumped considerably. And I think you'll have a lot to say on this, I would imagine, in the context specifically of the pandemic and COVID-19, because I know I certainly did it. And, we have 3 young children, and, they're, constantly, there beside us when we're trying to work in the meantime. And, we might have a bit of an Amazon fetish, and we might just want to buy something to make us feel better. But then we feel super annoyed when, it doesn't come within a particular time frame, or what we ordered was wrong, etc. So these interactions have changed dramatically. Even ordering a pizza today, you have the expectation of having, and I know Domino's is a customer, and actually that wasn't the plant, I assure you. It was just something that came into my mind as a good CX, because, you can actually go and order it from your phone, click the Apple Pay, and see your pizza being made and where it's at, and follow the driver down your street. I mean, that's the kind of level that we're at today. But for our listeners on the show, artificial intelligence really came into its own for me. It was framed in my mind, at least, when I looked at chatbots, and I looked at what chatbots were capable of. And I certainly saw this. I worked at HubSpot, and then I saw it at Intercom, and that was deployed as well in a solution, and some of the consulting clients I worked with. But just for our listeners who aren't aware of this, Raghu, could you maybe just share with us your view of CX today and how AI is really changing the game?
Absolutely. The 2 biggest things over the last 10 years that have changed across the world is, one is on-demand experiences. People have got used to it. Earlier, you had to call for a taxi and kind of get it. Now you get it instantly. You need to order food. Now you can kind of get food on order and on demand. The second is real-time conversations and experiences. Just before 2010, the only way that you could kind of reach out to business is either making them a call or sending them an email, and you get a response a few hours later. And now on the consumer side, they're experienced to chatting and conversing with their friends, etc. So this entire thing about conversations in real time and getting on-demand services completely changed the perception of the experience that they are getting from any service that they use. But enterprises kind of have a lot of legacy systems. They've been slow to change. And these expectations are now being imposed on a lot of enterprises out there. And some of them pioneering, like Domino's, have adopted this really fast and enabling this real-time on-demand experiences to the end customers and driving delight. But there are thousands of other enterprises which are still to adopt these technologies and provide that experience. And that is essentially where I think artificial intelligence is really helping is when customers want to talk to you, they want a response immediately. And there is no way of company to scale human beings to talk to these customers almost instantly and get things done. And artificial intelligence kind of learns from what humans want to say, the customer experience agents wants to stay, and kind of amplifies this to support the conversations across thousands and potentially millions of consumers, and they get this consistent experience almost instantly. And second, which is more personalized. If there is one area where artificial intelligence and software is actually have a better performance than humans, is assimilating a lot of data in seconds. And these algorithms can go into all the customer data platforms, the internal systems, and provide the most personalized response back to the customer. But as a company, we always realize that automated conversations are great for transactional interactions. But when somebody has a fear around losing something, somebody has an emotion to express, it's always better done by humans. And we as a platform allow for humans to jump into those conversations and provide that experiences to the end customers. But AI is kind of making the best of humans to amplify their capabilities to serve a large section of end consumers out there.
I think what's really cool is the way in which machines have been able to, and when I say machines, it's not like Terminator 2, Judgment Day, it's not that kind of stuff, but it is effectively a piece of software which is being able to process natural language in a much more sophisticated fashion. So when I did computer science a long time ago, we talked about lexical analysis, we talked about parsing text and so on, but it really wasn't at the level where you can actually catalog that data. You can put it into databases were not as scalable as they are, and you've got the likes of MongoDB and these sorts of platforms which and the other one which name escapes me now, which powers Facebook, but it was all based on entity keys and unique identifiers. Those days are gone. And being able to store data in a very flat fashion, but also a very addressable fashion in text format, and process that in real time. And virtual computing has virtualization has brought that to the fore and made that more possible with spinning up web farms in a very succinct fashion with Amazon, and spin them down when not needed any longer. But I think what's really changed is natural language processing. And now that's at the next level with voice automation. So that is an area where, okay, so just to back up for a second, in terms of natural language process, you're talking about a chatbot. It's recognizing what you're saying and it's steering you in the right direction and giving you outcomes. So I'm big into automation and recruitment, and what we do, it's very much about being able to manage people in a very sophisticated but personal fashion. So, chatbots can do that, and that's one seriously cool piece of technology. But taking that to voice is a whole other game. Can you just, for myself included and our audience, can you just explain to me how that works and what that means for society when it's transferred across to voice, and maybe some of the use cases you guys are using? That'd be hugely helpful to our listeners as well, if you could share.
Yeah. First of all, I think why voice was so important, we looked at it, is there are about 400 billion customer support calls that are made every single year. And there is close to about $1 trillion spent by companies every single year in providing customer support over those voice interactions. And as a company, as any company, when they look at customer experience and improving that, it's really not complete if they're not looking at improving that over the voice channels, especially on the telephony. Next, kind of coming to the key challenges around telephony, is it's primarily an analog system, and then the key challenge for driving automation on voice is how do we convert the the voice conversations in that analog system, and then voice requires a synchronous response. The consumers need a response within seconds, whereas in text, it's an asynchronous medium. You could always have a response within a few minutes or potentially even hours. So the key challenge is how do you convert that into identifiable intent in real time, process what needs to be conveyed back to the customer, picking up from the data from the backend systems and respond back in a human-like voice in real time. And some of the key challenges here are that a lot of those conversations involve elements which are specifically understood from that customer point of view. For example, somebody talking to a paints company talk about something related to really the chemicals in the paint, and which are like not generally colloquial, and they're not trained in the language models. And those need really customized language models to be trained for those specific context-specific conversations. And the other key challenge is also about when voice is involved, the sentiment and the way that the voice is exchanged is super important, unlike text, where there are not a lot of emotions that go along with a text conversation. So the ability to understand the key emotions and sentiments around voice and have the voice-based responses from the software, also have a way of annotations, etc., to convey those emotions is one other absolutely key challenge.
Okay. No, I was going to ask you, how do you deal with, because I know what Gong are doing in this space in relation to the sales process and figuring out who's speaking more, what's the cadence of that speech. It's transcribing. If you look at tools like Otter.ai, who are transcribing text from conversations either in real time or after the fact. How, like, I can only tell you from my own experience, it's anywhere kind of being 80 and, kind of 90% odd. How are you finding that, and how much more do we have to go? And there's also things like accents. Even, I live in the British Isles, as you know, but like even within that, there are hundreds of accents, which is like hard to fathom for such a small area. How does it cope with that? And where do you think the challenges remain in that space, and where will we get to, and what's perfection look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So companies like Gong are really looking at, from a sales perspective, understanding what's working, what's not working, and really providing analytics back to the company on those conversations. Whereas our focus is on providing always the best response back to the user at any single point of time. So a lot of our software's focus is really understanding the meaning. That's the core focus, while sentiment is an addendum to that understanding to make sure that the response can be annotated in a way that is reasonably appealing to the end user. So both these technologies are quite complementary, and I think enable the experience for both the customer and the organization and agent in a different way. So for us, the core is the end consumer experience. For Gong, potentially the right user experience is the sales manager or the sales head of the company analyzing those conversations. Looking at what problems are solved and what's the future, right now we are in level 2 of voice-based conversational automation. What we mean by that is a lot of interactions that are being automated are primarily transactional, where the value of providing a response really fast is far higher than potentially having a great emotional human-like response. So you want to get your tickets rescheduled, you want to do that really fast than having a great emotional response around understanding your context, etc. Where I think the future growth and current software really lacks is on the advanced emotional skills of humans, like let's say negotiation, let's say convincing user to potentially buy something. And let's say a customer is complaining and you want to assuage the customer. These are areas still where humans and their connect and their voice, the way that you can understand and answer human is far higher than software. But where I think the technology is really superior to humans is the ability to understand and within a few seconds go collect the data and find the right answer in a more transactional way. So the future would be where these technologies evolve and learn to drive more advanced cognitive functions that humans can do, and also expand on, right now, voice is one way of expressing things. They will expand to more video and they'll expand to more visual, getting the visual cues and responding. So the other facets of humans are kind of going to get into these conversations. And level 4, level 5 is where almost it's the nirvana, where the conversation is as if like a human is actually conversing, but with the strength of the speed of software.
Wow, very cool application. I hadn't thought about that. I suppose you're looking at AI that's passing the Turing test and getting a high score, right? So
that's the long term. That's where I think the long term, the technology, the improvements in technology are towards making software really human like. I think that's how the technology is moving. But I think that'll be a curve where you'll see slow growth over a period of time, and you'll see sharp spikes where there's significant advancement that happens. But all technologies are driving towards that end goal.
wonderful, wonderful. Well, look, for the benefit of our audience, could you maybe share with us a couple of use cases for projects you guys have been involved in that you said, wow, we were really able to transform an organization? If you're comfortable sharing names, all the better, but it certainly at a high level, some of the use cases where you're able to transform the way people service their customers, not only from a bulk perspective, because obviously you've got two scenarios. I suppose you've got two facets of the problem, if you like. One is we have a large glut of service requests that are coming, and we have a bottleneck in our ability to service. So that's a quantitative measure. And then secondly, we have a quality problem, should I say, which is we can't handle these well enough because we're moving on to the next one. So maybe if you could share with us what that looks, and maybe anything I've missed there in that equation, but what does that look like, and how have you been able to moderate and improve that, if you could share?
Absolutely. So I'll take the example, since you talked about pizza, and we'll continue that with that context. Domino's India, I think when we initially talked to them, they had about 60 to 70% of their customer support calls or the calls from customers related to customer support, whereas 30% were sales. So they were investing a lot of human resources in handling service requests, whereas revenue generation was coming from 30% of the calls. They started with automating all their customer support requests with the vision that they are going to spend their maximum time in sales and top line growth, and automation take over the customer service requests. And it's been a year or two since we started the implementation. Right now, they have almost a 90% reduction in the number of support requests that are handled directly by their agents. They have replaced their entire call center with primarily automation front end in their voice and on chat. And is 1 in 10 queries actually reach a human there. There's been a massive transformation. And the biggest surprising factor was that they were expecting that, hey, maybe we might take a little bit of a hit in CSAT scores and customer satisfaction, but they saw that move up. Because customers were getting their questions answered faster. There were no more in queues, and all this at a fraction of cost. And all their best resources are now focused on making sure that the sales happen at a significantly high volume. So there are no consumer that gets on a hold when they want to order a pizza on phone. So that's been the transformation we saw there. The other customer is Sephora in Singapore. With the entire COVID, their consumers are really looking to engage with their products from home, and what's better way to engage them on WhatsApp. So they have these beauty assistants that train the bot, and the chatbot converses with their end users on WhatsApp, provides product information, and at any point of time when there are sales signals, the beauty assistants are seamlessly connected back to the consumer, and they can help them make the right choice. This has been a tremendous boost for the company when they were able to almost replicate an in-person experience when they are looking at these products and talking to the beauty assistant to make a sale or help them buy the right product. That's completely now is being experienced digitally, and they've seen great success with that model, and that model is kind of expanding in multiple with multiple other retail customers as well. So these two are the big examples that I kind of like to bring about.
They make great sense, and I can see how that would play out, particularly in the context of the new world we're living in. And I'm a big believer in the fact that COVID was just a catalyst to that. You know, we were always going to go this direction, but I think COVID has kind of forced the issue, and that's a perfect case in point, I suppose. So shifting gears a little bit here and moving into, you know, scale and how you've coped with that. There's no doubt that you have, you know, considerable demand for your product. I'm curious to know, like, how have you set yourself up for growth? How do you manage scale? What does leadership look like? So we'll take in those one by one, but, you know, how are you finding scale and demand for this, and how have you structured yourself up for success, if you could share?
Yeah. A great question, especially the right time, because I think we just when COVID started, we were about 100-member company, closely about 100 customers. Now we are at the end of this quarter, we'll be touching about 1,000 customers overall in the company, of almost about 500 employees. So almost like a 10x customer growth over the last 18 months. And I wouldn't say that it's been easy. It's been one of the experiences I can remember for the life. And if I kind of look back and take the lessons and how we are kind of driving and building towards that, and I think the number one thing that really comes about is the people that we all work with, and it's just like this is just the number one single most determinant in how you kind of scale up for the company. So really, we looked at the entire customer journey and looked at acquisition, onboarding, success, and expansion. And we hired leaders for each part of the journey in the company. This one leader who just, his goal is bookings, whereas another leader, his goal is bookings to activation, to someone to NPS, and someone to retention. And hiring some of the best leaders and giving them or having them fully have the complete freedom to execute was, I think, one of the significant aspects. And on a personal level, it's all about having the confidence to let go of things that you have all done yourself. I think that kind of helped the leaders to kind of take the complete mantle and drive these in different directions as they like. The third part is investing in technology and software in the systems. So we being an automation company ourselves, we have heavily invested in creating internal tools. If you see our website, there's a Billy that interacts with customers, converts them into leads, and now we are also calling them after certain times, so that it eliminates or it takes over a lot of automation of the sales and marketing efforts, providing a great leverage for us to scale multiple organizations. I think these three have been, factors that help us scale, and factors that we kind of are doubling down for further driving our growth.
I would direct folks to the website, and Billy is here popping up in the corner of my screen saying, my team of humans can walk you through the process of building awesome bots if you're interested. I love that quirky marketing approach, of something I subscribe to. But just to drill into something that you mentioned there, you hired leaders for the respective segments of the business to grow them out effectively. And sounds like you gave them autonomy to do that. How would you capture leadership as a philosophy? Like, what do you think it means to you in terms of how it shapes your internal culture?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that apart from all the hygiene items, I think one thing that we looked at leadership right from day one is the ability to punch above their weight and ability to make their team punch about every single member of their team punch above their weights. I think the reason we look at it that way is that we are an upstart. We are all potentially going behind behemoths, and I think while one way I think it provides a great opportunity for every single person in the company to exceed what I think there are externally conceived as their limitations, but it just provides a great opportunity to grow beyond them in the fastest way possible in their careers. And leaders who can enable that for their people are serving a win-win purpose. They are delivering company a phenomenal growth, and while that growth is happening, each and every one of our colleagues and are realizing their vision for their careers. The second part that I kind of discussed about is the ability to make decisions in an environment that is dynamic, chaotic, and not really looking for validation in everything that they need to do, which is about conviction and confidence around their decision-making abilities. I think that's the key area that we would like our leaders to kind of demonstrate. And the third thing is about winning culture, and it's not about don't lose kind of culture. So for every decision making, we call it the winning culture, where you kind of look at anything that you do or any decision you make, you kind of think whether if there is a customer, if there is a employee, and if there is a board member, are they seeing this decision as making them win, right, in a certain segment, and not really look at a decision as a personal criticism or personal, look at it in a personal way, but kind of look at it in a way that is it creating a win for all these three key stakeholders. And if you're always moving the needle in the right path towards that, you kind of build a company that eventually will deliver large wins for all these stakeholders, and that's what a company finally wants to finally is expected to do.
Sure. So it sounds like a lot of empowering to make decisions, failing forward, failing fast, not being afraid of that. And I think one of the things you mentioned at the start for me that stood out was almost just this ability to just go for it and ask for forgiveness, not permission, because that's really how you make decisions. So as we round the corner here and kind of wrap things up, with all of that in mind, I don't know how you sleep, number one, and number two, what do you do for fun, if you could share with our audience?
I sleep 8 hours a day.
Oh, great. Okay.
Most of the time, and that's a high on priority of my list, because I feel the number one area that I need to contribute is decision making, and really I don't think I'll be able to make high quality decisions sleeping 5 hours a day. And second, my fun activities, I like tennis. I love playing it. I missed playing for the last 2-3 months. You know it. but I'm really looking forward to get back there. I loved watching the French Open, Wimbledon,
Sure.
So that's my number one fun activity, and of course I love spending time with my two kids.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. And it's interesting you say there about sleep, because I'm a big fan of Matthew Walker. He's been on Joe Rogan before, and he talks about how Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, boasted about 3 hours sleep a night, but actually they unfortunately led to other health conditions later in life, tragically. And the best people who are the most productive people sleep more than anything else. So yeah, I would cement that fact, and it's an important facet of my life in being productive as well. So look, I want to thank you for your extensive input into today's show. I think our audience have learned a dramatic amount about this space, and I look forward to exploring this, because I want to have you back to talk about video when you guys clearly are going down that path. So if you'll come back for us, we'd love to have you.
Absolutely, that'll be a great pleasure, and I had a great time being here and talking to you, Ross. Thanks a lot for this.
Wonderful, Raghu. We'll talk again next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Global Tech Leaders Podcast, designed for both established and aspiring career-focused tech rock stars, as well as helping leadership figure out how to speak global in today's multicultural world. For further details, check out sf-talent.com.